Hey, this is Mike. I just wanted to cut in before this episode began and let you know we had an audio phasing issue where Sam is out of sync with us sometimes and we answer him as he speaks. It's a little raw too. I left in all of my ums, and but-ums, which I think adds to the raw oddness of the movie we discussed this week, which is Repo Man. I also want to let you know that the episode after this will be The Long Kiss Goodnight, coming out on Christmas Day, and then Sam and I are going to start a release schedule of coming out every other Monday as opposed to every other Thursday. So after the Christmas Day episode on January 8th, we'll be talking Princess Bride. Enjoy the episode.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch.
And I'm Mike Bobbitt, and this is Ideal Remake. All right, we're talking Repo Man with this is kind of a fun thing for me. We're hanging out with my buddy Jimmy Doom from the band Almighty Lumberjacks of Death, and he's also most notably in the movie Kill the Irishman. And Sam, I didn't want to give you too much background about Jimmy, but when I was in high school, I was a big fan of Jimmy's band, and I would kind of lip sync concerts while listening to Jimmy's albums. So Jimmy is a person that I was a huge fan of since I was a teenager. And fast forward, some odd years later, and Jimmy is one of my closest, most talented friends. He's an actor, he's a singer, he's a poet, he's a writer. He's just an all-around great guy. So thanks. But
I can't dance. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. I didn't even know I could do all those things.
Yeah. And Sam is in Justified. He gets killed by a serial killer or something. Or do you just get raped by the serial killer, Sam?
Oh, no, I get brutally murdered.
Oh, okay. Good.
But not raped?
Oh, no, probably both. I
thought it was implied that you were raped, too.
Yeah.
Because weren't you, tied to a bed in your underwear or something?
I'm tied to a bed. I've got a ball gag in my mouth. I'm not seen for very long, but basically he walks in the room and I'm there cowering away from him, tied to the bed. He closes the door, and then you hear the sounds of him beating someone to death.
And that's Sam. And Jimmy gets nearly beaten to death by
Ray Stevenson
in Kill the Irishman. And Jimmy ended up doing the stunts for it. And it was really cool. The day after shooting that, I ran into Jimmy at a bar, and he was showing me about how the fight coordinator was teaching him how to really land a punch. So Jimmy, after having a couple celebratory drinks, was throwing punches at my face to where I could feel the wind breaking by my nose. But to his credit, never accidentally hit me at all.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Which wouldn't shock you if you see the movie, because in the movie I do not land a punch.
Right.
Whatsoever. I just take a bunch of them. I throw them wildly, and then I get beat down.
Right. So, Almighty Lumberjacks of Death is the premier Detroit punk band, which is why we asked Jimmy here today to talk about Repo Man, which is arguably the most punk rock movie I think ever made.
Yeah, you're going to get emails about that.
Right. Really?
Well,
what do you think?
Other movie fall in the... What other movies are in contention for the most punk rock movie?
A narrative...
Sid and Nancy, but Sid and Nancy I don't think is nearly as punk as this.
Yeah, because there was nothing really punk about Nancy Spungen to me. She drained whatever punk would have been in that movie.
And wouldn't that be a movie about punk and not itself a punk movie?
Yeah, okay, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. Yeah, that's up there. Decline of Western Civilization would be the one, except it's a documentary.
It's a documentary, yeah.
Yes.
There's a 1978 movie called Jubilee, which is pretty punk rock as well.
Kind of punky.
It's insane.
I always say to that, you're kind of punky.
Yeah, you're kind of punky.
What on earth did I just watch?
Okay, before we get into the plot, I'm going to get into the backstory of Repo Man. Alex Cox, who kind of wrote, but did direct it, he was a UCLA student that basically scammed Universal into making a movie for him. He did a short that Michael Nesmith from the Monkees saw and was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And Michael Nesmith signed on to be the executive producer for Repo Man. And this was just going to start off as a student picture, but then Universal threw money at them, and all these people that thought they were just going to do it, deferred payment, were like, oh, wow, we're getting paid now. And he kind of kind of made it up as he went along, particularly with the ending, where investors weren't like super happy with the way some of the stuff was going. So he scrapped like 2 different ending ideas before settling on the ending we did get. And Jimmy, I know you did a lot of research on this too. Like, am I right or partially right, or
that I didn't know the Universal angle? I knew Mike Nesmith had his hands on it, and I knew Alex Cox, as you alluded to. Dick Rude, who plays Duke, had written a short film, like a little punk rock film about some rowdy youth, and Alex Cox actually took some of that and used it in the movie Repo Man. Obviously cast Dick Rude as Duke.
But originally he was supposed to be Otto as the lead, and then was kind of mad when they hired Emilio Estevez instead.
Yeah, which probably made Universal want to throw more money at it.
Right. Yeah, of course. And I mean, and this is kind of pre Breakfast Club and really before.
Yeah, I mean,
Emilio
it's not
Estevez
like it was his breakout role.
Yeah, but I mean, still Emilio Estevez was still, Martin Sheen's son.
Yes.
So yeah,
that does help.
Yeah. You can tell how famous Dick Rude is when you look him up on IMDb Pro. His direct email address is there.
He made the documentary on Joe Strummer. He made a concert film.
One of the documentaries. Yeah. He didn't make The Future Is Unwritten.
Oh, okay.
He made a different one.
He directed a lot of stuff for the Chili Peppers.
Yeah. Catholic Schoolgirls Rule. He directed that video.
Yeah.
Catholic Schoolgirls Rule. I just butchered that, but
that's why you're in a punk band, not a funk band.
Yeah.
Originally, Chris Penn was hired to play Kevin, and they weren't happy because he went real John Belushi Animal House with it, over the top. So Xander Schloss, who later joined the Circle Jerks, who played the lounge band in the movie, was kind of bummed because he got bumped from playing Kevin for Chris Penn, and then he later found out when they fired Chris Penn, they went with Xander Schloss. So it has a happy ending. So that kind of explains to you why the movie feels kind of weird for you, Sam, because a lot of shit just kind of happened, and they said, "Yeah, okay, I guess it's like this now."
Well, and again, I don't know that much about this movie. Was this movie a commercial success?
No, the soundtrack was, though. The soundtrack is really what made the movie end up being kind of a cult hit.
Oh, it was. I would say it was definitely a cult hit.
Yeah,
it was. And Rocky Horror, the Rocky Horror thing had started to wane, and I would say arguably that Repo Man was the next midnight movie cult hit to follow Rocky Horror.
Yeah, I guess the Repo Man soundtrack, they look at it a lot as like the kind of similar to the Easy Rider soundtrack, where it's kind of like the soundtrack to a generation.
Yes.
And what also helped, and Sam, I think this is going to blow your mind, Roger Ebert loved Repo Man.
I bet. And that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, it's like he spent his day watching the same movie. He probably loved to see someone swing for the fences. And that's what this movie is.
Yeah. There's a Criterion collection for, Repo Man. Like, it's a cult hit.
That one surprises me.
So here's the plot of Repo Man. A cop pulls over a Chevy Malibu, and the cop opens up the trunk. He's vaporized by bright white light.
That is their brilliant low-budget sci-fi thing right there.
Yeah.
So cheap to shine a light out of a damn trunk of a car.
Yeah.
Boom.
And apparently the made edited for television version of it, they superimposed like Satan over the license plate and over the light in the trunk and stuff. Like, the television version is apparently way different than anything else.
Wait, the license?
It's 2 different license plates, because in that scene particular, the car got stolen, so they had to use a backup car. So the license plate changes within that scene.
Really?
Yeah. And, I'm full of trivia.
Yes, that's great. I love that.
But the television version, they keep superimposing Satan's face over it. And there's a different subplot completely about how it's actually the devil himself in the trunk of the car in the television version.
Really?
Yeah.
So the guy just kidnapped the devil?
Apparently so. I want to find... I was looking on YouTube trying to find some of the television scenes, and I could not find them. But I'm super curious.
Because that's one of the running things in the movie. It's something in the trunk. Is it aliens? Is it a neutrino bomb? It's something. When you guys were watching this movie for the first time, what was your like, we're seeing this movie, this is what I think it is?
I always thought it was aliens.
Yeah,
Jimmy and I were talking about that earlier.
Yes.
I still think it's the aliens.
The characters in the film think it's drug related. You know, once the car becomes valuable, once the repo company, Helping Hands, is offering this huge reward, then everybody thinks there must be like 10 kilos in the trunk or something. That's the implication. But I think to the viewer, you really think there's alien stuff going on because you've already seen the cop get vaporized. And cocaine takes a lot longer to vaporize a human being than aliens.
Yes.
in my limited experience with cocaine and aliens.
Right. So we cut to Otto. He's played by Emilio Estevez. He's working at a grocery store. He gets fired. His girlfriend cheats on him with Duke. He's wandering around
His
LA.
girlfriend cheats on him with Duke while he goes to get her a beer. Like, go get me a beer. Well, now's my chance.
The house itself that happens in kind of reminds me of a band house. And Jim,
I think it's on purpose.
Yeah, you have a lot of experiences being in band houses.
Yes, I do.
I could see that happening in a band house, someone leaving to get a beer and someone swooping in.
Yes. I've had band house experiences where someone's significant other came home drunk and I just happened to be closer and they were like, hey, why don't we? And I'm like, why don't you go upstairs? It's only a short trip upstairs. Go see your boyfriend. Yeah, the band house thing can be chaotic and guys in bands. I knew guys in bands who worked at grocery stores.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a different world for us, Sam.
Yes.
Otto's walking down the street. Bud, Harry Dean Stanton, approaches him, gives him $25 to drive a car.
He says, hey, kid, want to make $10? That's our inciting incident. The inciting incident in this movie is, hey, kid, want to make $10?
So it turns out that Bud is a repo man, and it goes against Otto's punk rock philosophy. But then he eventually caves in when he finds out that his parents gave all of his the money they were saving for him to a televangelist. So
it's Pat Robinson, isn't it?
No, it's his name is Reverend Larry. He's made up for the movie. That was another cut subplot where they wanted something to happen with one of the camera shots to show that Reverend Larry was actually a robot from the waist down.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
What a heightened reality of a world.
Yeah, there's definitely a thing with like the early 80s punk bands where, a lot of songs, talking about, the Reagan era of politics as well as televangelism. Like those were two really strong points in music.
Definitely. And I mean, they were intertwined. That's when the Christian rights burgeoned under Reagan, the moral majority.
I never associated Ronald Reagan with being like a super, like nowadays I picture, and this will be polarizing, but I don't care. But with broad strokes, paint the Republican Party as, that's the Christian party. But with Ronald Reagan being a Hollywood actor, I don't necessarily picture him.
No, he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was only the second divorced president and I believe the first one to be nominated for his party's, to represent his party after a divorce, something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he was around, and the moral majority, because the AIDS epidemic hit, and which wasn't something that Reagan had any control over when that illness, when that plague hit. But it was his negative reaction to it helped make it so people had to take sides. Why should we give government money to these quote unquote immoral people? And that was really a very polarizing time in America. And punk rockers took the side against Reagan, against the moral majority. Simple as that.
So that's where the televangelism comes into.
Oh, they were definitely they got more involved in politics. Before it was like, buy my Bible and you're going to go to heaven if you give me $25.50 a month or whatever the hell it was. And then televangelists started getting more actively involved in conservative politics. I'm sure they had always been involved to a certain point. But
I didn't even interpret it that way. I saw that particular scene as less against the moral majority and more people being kind of slaves to what they see on TV. If it's seen on TV,
definitely that element too.
I think
and
that too.
It's so brilliantly written because it's not some black and white thing. If you listen to Otto's dialogue, he says, "Ma, Dad, remember you told me that when I wanted to go to college, there would be money. And he's like, well, I'm going to go to college, but could I get the money now? So it wasn't like Otto had some great opportunity that they screwed him out of.
Right.
He was kind of trying to screw them out of the money they promised him.
Yeah.
You know, so he wasn't completely absolved of guilt. It wasn't like some kid who couldn't go to like cello camp and went on a rampage. It was, you know, he was kind of
he missed out.
Yeah.
Cello camp was where it was at.
Yeah. So he ends up becoming a repo man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a good joke. Let me take that again.
Okay.
Oh, man. He missed out. Cello camp was heavy. Because they're large instruments. You guys, I'll be here all night.
So anyway, but I mean, his mom delivers that line like she's completely in somebody's rapture.
Right.
Absolutely.
I didn't look up who the actors are who play. I have their names, Jonathan Hugger and Sharon Gregg, but I haven't looked up to see what else they've done.
Okay, well, I can do that. I have one of these smartphone things.
I have it pulled up here. But anyway, he ends up becoming a repo man, and he finds that he enjoys it quite a bit, and ends up stealing or repossessing a flashy red Cadillac, sees Leela running down the street, ends up picking her up. They hook up. She works for the United Fruitcake outlet and is really into UFOs.
Which, I don't know if you picked up on this. Do you know what the United Fruitcake outlet was an acronym for?
Could it be UFO?
Could it be?
No way! You guys figured it out.
So, Jonathan Hugger did a lot of television stuff. He was in Airwolf playing Man Number One.
Oh, wow.
And he was in Misfits of Science.
Was that an Emmy-nominated role?
Yeah.
Man Number One?
He played Sam in whatever I just looked up next. Sorry. And then Sharon Gregg has two
Whatever
credits.
it is, I respect it.
Sharon Gregg plays Otto's mom and is also in Convicted, A Mother's Story, as actress.
That's her biggest role.
Yeah, is Otto's mom. I thought they might have been someone like noteworthy.
I thought it was too.
Yeah. So
I'm sure in her own family she's very noteworthy.
Right. So Leela shows Otto's pictures of aliens that she says are in the trunk of a Chevy Malibu. She says that they're emitting radiation, they're dangerous. And then we also find out that there's sort of like a bounty out for the Chevy Malibu where it's $20,000. And like Jimmy said, people assume that it's drug related, but
now correct me if I'm wrong. The person who establishes the $20,000 bounty on the Chevy Malibu was the woman who was the secretary of the repo company.
Correct.
She was the one who then went and approached the other two guys who I couldn't figure out. Were they a rival repo company? What were they?
The Rodriguez brothers.
Like
I think they're kind of a rival repo company, and they're there's a whole other scrap subplot where she's secretly working with them, and they're like Latin American revolutionaries, and they're doing the repossessing to stockpile weapons. And at the end of one of the scrapped endings, Otto was supposed to join up with them, take the car, and threaten to like nuke Los Angeles.
Did they film that ending?
No.
They just scrapped it.
Yeah.
All right.
Investors told Michael Nesmith,
because this
just tell
actually
him that that's not happening.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I was going to say, like the movie Clue, I could totally see this movie having different endings depending on which theater you went to.
that could be fun. There was another ending where the car was just
something to put in our back pocket.
right. There was another ending where the car was just going to be a nuclear explosion that would destroy Los Angeles. That was scrapped too. And it turned out that people...
Gee, I wonder why.
People were just responding to my all-time favorite character actor, Tracy Walter, playing Miller. So that's why they went with the ending that they had. That what if Miller's just right about everything?
Yes. Despite alternate endings, they would have to have the immortal line. But what about a relationship? Fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that. Trivia about Miller. Jimmy and I made a pilot. It was sort of an odd couple kind of thing, where Jimmy played the ghost of a punk rocker and I played a stand-up comedian. And
we haven't left those roles to this day.
Right. And in that, there was a character named Miller who was the eccentric guy who was the only other person who could see Jimmy's ghost character besides myself. So everyone thought that Miller in our pilot was talking to himself, but he was actually talking to Jimmy. And then you find out in like the second or third episode, when we start to see, Jimmy's character through other people's perspectives, that if you went back and rewatched the first 2 episodes, you would be like, oh, Miller wasn't crazy. So there was that connection because I like that character so much. And then in Spacebar, the pilot that DJ Dangler and I were trying to sell, there's a character named Walter who looks a lot like Tracy Walter and is a janitor aboard a space station who later it was going to be revealed that he's essentially a god in this universe, also based on...
Oh, that would have been amazing.
I know, but
I love that.
I think Spacebar is not going, so I'm talking about the plot more freely these days, so...
Oh
yeah. This
thoughts
is
and prayers.
An Ideal Remake exclusive. Mike's dreams are dead.
Oh no.
Okay. So Debbie and Duke and Archie now are running around doing crimes and just keep missing Otto and Bud. Or they're in the same place, but they're robbing a liquor store and they're hiding behind the counter and stuff. So that's happening at the same time, too, as another loose thread to the movie. The Chevy Malibu shows up in L.A. It changes hands a lot. It actually, the 3 punks who are running around doing crime end up stealing the Malibu.
From the Rodriguez brothers.
And then... who steal it from J. Frank Parnell is the driver. But J. Frank Parnell finds it. The punks have it. He tricks them into opening it up the trunk. It vaporizes Archie. And then Duke and Debbie say, let's go do crime. And Duke says his line, yeah, let's go eat sushi and not pay. Yeah. One of those great quotable lines of the movies.
That is a pretty great line.
So... changes plots hands a lot. There's government agents after it. One of the government agents is actually played by Jimmy Buffett. There's
what? Really?
Yep.
Really, you could look at Repo Man as a prequel to the X-Files.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they somehow Alex Cox was friends with Jimmy Buffett, and he said, "Hey, you want to be in my movie?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." Somehow someone else involved with the movie was friends with Muhammad Ali, and they were like, hey, will you do a scene at the end where like not even Muhammad Ali can touch the car and then you'll get vaporized? And Muhammad Ali was like, really nice, apparently, but said, yeah, I'm going to pass though. So wouldn't that have just been great though?
Yeah.
At the end?
That would have been pretty amazing.
The government agent...
Knowing what we know now, if they had known that back then, if they had known putting Muhammad Ali in that movie would have boosted its audience greatly.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think that audience would have made it to the point that Muhammad Ali was in the movie?
I think some people would have grumbled that he wasn't a prominent enough part, that but I'm just saying from a future perspective, being able to put Muhammad Ali's name on the DVD case would have made them much more money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That would have been pretty amazing.
More so than Jimmy Buffett.
Right. Did you guys know that Muhammad Ali is the only person to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that is not on the ground, because it would be disrespectful for his Muslim culture to have people step on the name Muhammad. It's actually hanging on the wall inside the Dolby Theater, right inside the entrance, right off of Hollywood Boulevard.
Really?
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
I've heard that somewhere, but it's one of those facts that's always fun.
Yep.
And Donald Trump's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is in a urinal in the Dolby Theater.
It's funny when people are talking about his star getting defaced. If you look at a lot of the stars on the Walk of Fame, like, how could you necessarily tell? Like, a lot of them are kind of covered in shit and trash. So
yeah, that's the thing about Hollywood Boulevard. It's awful.
Every time I had a friend that would visit me from out of town, and they would want to see things like the Walk of Fame, and we'd be, there'd be a closed down porno shop, someone sleeping outside of it. Everyone would be like, wow, the Walk of Fame is a lot rougher than I imagined. Like, yep, it really is. We can go in front of the Chinese theater where some guy dressed as a pea-stained Spider-Man might not get a boner as he poses with your preteen daughter.
I can always go play like an aging crack addicted Aquaman on Hollywood Boulevard.
There are some people who literally live off of Hollywood Boulevard, and that's just their life. They wake up, walk down to the boulevard, get enough money for a shot of heroin and call it a day.
I haven't watched that documentary.
Neither have I. Friend of the show, Zach Luna, is fond of it.
And our friend Zach Luna, who will be on our episode where we talk about The Princess Bride, does cosplay as Spider-Man. And
as I openly weep that I didn't get invited to the Princess Bride episode.
Jimmy, you're just so much more punk than you are a dashing swashbuckler.
Now I'm really devastated.
Look, eventually the car is glowing green. Miller gets in, invites Otto, and they fly around Los Angeles and then into space. The end. Cue reverse titles.
That was so weird.
The way the titles went down instead of up.
They go, like that took me by surprise, and I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat little detail. This is why I appreciate Repo Man so much. There's a scene where there's hail, and they couldn't really... What they ended up doing was just buying a bunch of ice cubes and having a couple people drop them in front of the camera. So to set that up as a joke earlier in the movie, there's a radio report talking about weird cube-shaped hail. So, like, it's a movie that's completely self-aware of what it is. Kevin singing the 7-Up theme song early in the movie. Later, when they end up at the... when Otto tells everyone that it's the manager of the grocery store that beat him up, you can hear the theme song to 7-Up playing in the background, and out of focus, Kevin is there. It's implied that he's, servicing the grocery store manager. And I just love that there's all these weird little details. The lounge band is the Circle Jerks playing a lounge version of one of their songs. There's layers. Like, it's one of those things that I've seen Repo Man probably close to a dozen times, and in rewatching it, there's still new stuff that I never noticed before.
Which is an absolute hallmark of the cult film.
Yeah.
Absolute hallmark of the cult film. And then obviously Alex Cox went on to tons of other films that are very well regarded.
One. Only one.
One. Wait,
Sid Nancy.
What?
Sid Nancy's the only
wait, get out your little IMDb thing. There is another Alex Cox film. There you go.
And
as a writer, straight to hell. There you go. I'm talking about writer, not... Yes.
What's Straight to Hell?
Oh, boy.
Straight to Hell. He is uncredited as director. No, he's a thug in the Amazulu band, uncredited, and then he's also the director and the writer.
Yeah, this is that weird Western one, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah. With Joe Strummer. Anything with Joe Strummer in it, I'm automatically going to like.
And Courtney Love.
I'm automatically going to not like as well.
It has a few of the people from Repo Man in it.
Yes.
I don't think it's as critically regarded as Sid Nancy. I think Repo Man and Sid Nancy commercially
he wouldn't have had the opportunities to make those films had it not been for Repo Man.
Right.
So,
yeah. How
are we going to remake this film?
Well, we have to talk about what Repo Man is, because at its heart, Repo Man is a punk rock movie.
That's the thing. I think the first question is, when we remake it, is it still set in the 80s? Or...
I don't think it can be, because I think that's something that appealed to people in the 80s. I feel like if you were to make it now, I don't even know if it could be a punk rock movie, because the thing that people say is, like, I don't necessarily say, oh my God, that's punk rock. I say, oh my God, that's super metal.
One of three things. It would have to be dubstep, EDM, or friggin' alt country. Like, that's...
I honestly don't think it should be any of those. I think it should be metal.
I think it should be... what subgenre of metal would it be? Like,
I'm not familiar enough with music.
I mean, it would be hilarious if it was Norwegian black metal. I mean, but it would be a very difficult sell.
Well, one of the big scenes in Repo Man that kind of is like, this is what this movie kind of is when he just gets fired from the grocery store and he's walking under the bridge and people are blasting music and dancing and they're like kind of having like a pseudo mosh pit, and then he sees his friend who just got out of jail. I think that's like, they're listening to punk music.
I mean, if you wanted to,
people who are dancing and having a party.
If you wanted to update it as a punk
people who are
thing, I mean, I'm sure there's young punk bands who would love to be involved.
What's the music that people are listening to? What are the people blasting under bridges today?
Yeah.
What's the...
Rap, trap. Like,
Yeah, I was
although
surprised.
that may have already gone to mainstream, and if you were going back to underground stuff, you would be looking at, like, say, alt country, which I know nothing about.
Well, I mean, if you're going to make the rap movie, you just end up making Straight Outta Compton with like
Here's
pseudo
my
realism
problem with alt country, though. Like, alt country isn't dangerous. Like, there was a perceived danger to punk rock culture that I don't think is there for anything beyond, like, you know, like thrash metal or black metal. And like, if we were going to set it in Norway, then we could have it be a black metal movie. But I like the idea of keeping this as a period piece, letting it stay a punk rock movie. I had a couple ideas. Usually I start with a cast and then kind of go for writer-director last. But I feel like with this, I had to crack some ideas for a writer-director. And I came up with a few ideas. At first, I thought it would be kind of neat to do Emilio Estevez to write and direct it. But Emilio Estevez, the problem is, though, that Emilio Estevez has no interest in ever looking back, which is why he isn't part of any of the commentaries or reunions or anything like that for this movie.
He's just raking in that sweet Mighty Ducks money.
And someone who captured the grittiness of Los Angeles nowadays was Sean Baker with Tangerine. And I thought that could be kind of cool. The Florida Project is awesome, too. So I think Sean Baker would be a great pick. And I think David Lynch could be interesting and just kind of heighten the weirdness of Repo Man, which there's certainly an abundance of weirdness. But the one that I like the most, I think, because this is such a California movie, I think Paul Thomas Anderson could do something kind of neat with this and make it kind of make Repo Man, a remake of Repo Man, an Oscar contender. Aside from Inherent Vice, like, all of his movies have made money. Yeah, that's why I was thinking Paul Thomas Anderson to write and direct a remake.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask a clarification question. At the end of the day, what group of people is Repo Man about? Because it feels like it's kind of about, like, the disenfranchised youth, the people who society is a little bit afraid of, and the kids don't really get what their don't get what their parents are doing. And it's about these kids who kind of, like, don't necessarily the outcasts of society doing a job that is nothing but
here's the
outcasts
thing,
of
Otto
society,
isn't.
right?
Like, when Duke has his dying scene and he blames society, Otto's like, fuck that. You're just a bored kid from the suburbs just like me. Like, Otto's just a guy looking for a place to fit in. Like, he's wearing the costume of the punk rock, person, but he adapts very quickly. Like, by the end of the movie, he's pretty preppy.
I wouldn't go that far, but if we're going in real life, there are people like that. You see it more now that we're older. Is it people that had good taste in music, didn't really know where they fit in, weren't part of the jock culture, and they went to a lot of cool shows, but now they have, like, the mid-level management gig, and you still see them at shows, but 9 to 5 they are wearing a tie and doing lame stuff that they said they would never do.
I ask because I have two alternative pitches for you. One of whom is Ryan Coogler, the guy who wrote Fruitvale Station. He's now working on Black Panther. Or the other option I had was Scott Silver, who wrote 8 Mile.
Ooh. Michael said a word I didn't think was going to come up in this conversation. Oscar. And I hate that I cannot pronounce this man's name because I like his work so much. Iñárritu.
Oh, yeah.
The Revenant, and
the guy who did
Birdman. Yes, I was going to say that you were on me, but yeah, the Birdman. Birdman has to be in my top 3 favorite films of all time. It really is.
It's so good.
Now think about it, like tracking shots of all of Otto and the gang's exploits. And then the dream sequences are the Malibu.
Yeah, I think visually he would make it look really, really cool. But I feel like...
Because you said that part of L.A. is gone, you would have to give it some kind of fantastical element to recreate.
Yeah. Who, I'm trying to look up, who was his, the cinematographer? It wasn't Lubeski that did all the one... Who is credited with the way that
Emmanuel Lubezki.
Oh, I guess he would be. Yeah, I wouldn't mind him shooting it, Emmanuel Lubezki, which I think the look of, can we just say Alejandro?
Yeah, Alejandro. Yeah, Alejandro.
I can't pronounce it either unless Sam pulls it out and phonetically breaks it down for me.
Alejandro
Inarritu?
I thought there was an Enya in there,
Inarritu.
like Iñárritu. Yeah.
It
like
might be Iñárritu.
Yeah. Whatever. The guy's a genius, and he's responsible for one of my favorite films of all time, so he gets the nod.
What if we
From
just let his cinematographer shoot it?
Well, let's make Emmanuel Lubezki our DP. That's not something we have
Right.
generally done on the podcast, but it's a cool
'cause
idea.
then we get the look of
I think
Iñárritu's. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna edit out every pause before I say his name. Now I can't because I said that. Because we still get the look of
the
movies
magic and mystery.
by having Emmanuel Lubezki.
But just imagine following Otto, like, not over the shoulder, just slightly behind the shoulder, like following him into the repo office.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that would just
The
really
one
cool.
shot that he does in Children of Men, that's the big chase scene that the camera is mounted on a system that goes inside and outside of the vehicle. Like, that more so than anything in The Revenant or Birdman, just because it was on such a smaller budget and it was done with, like, hardware, I think is, like, the best action car sequence in any movie ever. So, but that's the DP, I feel like.
Okay,
more than-
right on.
yeah.
There you go.
I feel like if we're grabbing the DP, we should also kind of snag the editor, because the editor on The Revenant and Birdman is a guy named Stefan Mirion. And I feel like if he was the editor on these two movies, he and Emmanuel Lubezki would kind of know this is the shot
Okay,
to
we're
go
gonna-
into edited this way.
That's valid, but
I don't think that's
I want
a major thing.
I
But
want the animatronic bear to play Kevin.
I'm not opposed to that.
Couldn't we just kind of do like Rogue One and just have CG Chris Penn come back
And now here's where Mike really kicks me out of the house. I haven't seen Rogue One yet.
here's where I kick myself out of the house. I was rewatching Rogue One on an airplane. I had like a half hour before the plane was going to land, so I was like, I'll just watch the scenes that I like in Rogue One, and I kept fast forwarding, and I realized I only like the last minute of Rogue One.
Wow.
I don't even own it. I have the Star Wars Holiday Special out there. I have the Ewok movies out there. I don't own Rogue One.
Wow.
Not
Okay.
yet. I'm sure I will. Yeah, but
I do. Yep, I do. I didn't.
I was going to
given
say,
to
do
me as
you
a
just
gift,
have a
but I kept
screener
it.
because it's nominated for an award, or?
I have been getting. Well, it wasn't nominated for
Oh,
an
yeah, that
award
was
this
last
year,
year,
but I have been getting so many screeners. Like, coming home every day is always a fun surprise because I get screeners in the mail. So today I got home and I had a copy of Mother and Downsizing.
Who's playing Otto?
Okay, now this is very, very crucial here. Are we still going Oscar?
Well, ignoring Oscar, who do you think is best for
Mike
the role?
said to me earlier, making it a hit. Because I would never in a trillion years suggest this guy for Otto unless we were talking box office. And if we're talking box office, then Zac Efron as I throw up in my mouth.
He's not punk rock
No,
at
I
all.
know, but he said hit.
I mean-
he said hit. I can go anywhere else if we're not talking about box office.
You know,
Here's the thing. The last 3 or 4 movies that Zac Efron has been in have not been box office successes. Zac Efron is actually on a decline. He's still very likable, and everyone who works with him really, really likes him. He's an incredibly nice guy, but he's not much of a box office draw
Okay,
anymore, so I
I'd
actually
be more
think
than
we can do
happy to
better.
not have him in our movie.
I don't think this is the right movie for him anyway. I think if we were remaking Point Break, he'd
I
be
was going
great,
to say
but
that
for this, not so much.
To argue for him, I think he's really good in Me and Orson Welles. Like, I think he's legitimately a good actor.
I agree. I also think he's a good actor,
Okay.
but I don't think he's this kind of actor.
I have a couple ideas that I'm not married to. I was thinking Aubrey Plaza,
As
Otto. She has the
Ooh,
kind
that's
of
interesting.
outside the perimeters, doesn't really fit in any kind of box thing going. Or I was thinking Elijah
if someone was going to amputate my foot without anesthesia, I would let Aubrey Plaza do it. I would put Aubrey Plaza in just about anything. I adore Aubrey Plaza, so it would be weird.
Great,
but
let's
it would
do
be
that.
cool. So now, do we change the gender of Layla, or do we make it a lesbian movie?
I think it's fine. Yeah,
I think-
because
I think that's fine,
I'm
too.
actually more into my idea of Layla than I was into my idea for Otto. My idea for Layla was Greta Gerwig because she plays that sort of like not like Layla isn't the manic pixie dream girl, but she's like the weird. She's a weirdo, but you know,
Yeah, I get you.
yeah.
She's more like the weirdo chick from
Ali Sheedy.
yeah.
Breakfast Club. Like one of those people who's one thing one minute, another
Yeah.
thing another. I'm
She's
not
in
familiar with
Greenberg,
Greta
and
Gerwig.
she's really
I'm-
great. And you know, Frances Ha, you know, she just wrote and directed Lady Bird.
which is nothing but nice things are
but
being
I
said
think
about
she's
it.
a really like. I'm not a mumblecore fan at all, but she's like the princess of mumblecore, and I'm sure you know.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
As much as I don't really like that, and it
Yeah,
scares me somewhat. I just bounced up. I don't.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Bud.
I have to just get this out of the way. You got to say, just once, you got to say it for posterity, it would be nice to use a holographic Harry Dean Stanton. You cannot replace Harry Dean Stanton. Having said that, and remember he said to me earlier in the day, hit, and this is an actor I respect both on and off camera. I would say Bryan Cranston.
I like that.
Bryan Cranston would be pretty good. I have an alternative pitch, but I love the idea of Bryan
a good
Cranston.
alternative pitch. 'Cause,
Yeah, hit us. I want to hear it.
What my idea was, because Harry Dean Stanton is basically this guy who's like kind of looks together, but is kind of just like falling apart on the inside. And so my pitch was for Bud, we get the other Estevez.
No.
Charlie Sheen?
Charlie Sheen isn't old enough. His arc is he just completely loses it. Like he gives you his coda of what a Repo Man does not do, and by the end, you know, he's breaking his own rules. He says, no, you know, only a fool gets shot over a car. He gets shot at the end over a car. Yeah, I think Bryan Cranston, you know, could pull off the arc that Bud has. Really
Yeah,
well.
I think now that you put it that way, I like it even more.
Yeah. My idea was Danny Trejo, but yeah, Bryan Cranston is a much better idea.
Then let's move on to Miller. Miller, I'm going to start us off with, why not John Malkovich?
Because I think there's nothing. I think Miller's the kind of guy who is so likable that even though he's saying these really, you know, things that even at the time, you know.
Malkovich, here's what I'm going to say while you collect your thoughts, because I know you love Miller, but Malkovich doesn't come onto the screen with any sort of underdog vibe.
Yes.
Like, there's no underdog, and Miller has a strong underdog vibe.
I think keeping with the...
Well, have you guys seen the movie? Have you guys seen Red?
Yeah, no, but I just...
I mean, my Miller is
'Cause
so
he does
far
come out with the
afield,
underdog vibe.
although we might have touched on it a little bit earlier with you guys not being able to even know where I was going to go with it. But give me some more Millers, and I'll...
My Miller,
Hit
keeping
me.
with the P.T. Anderson family, is the ultimate underdog, Mr. Cellophane from Chicago, John C. Reilly.
Oh,
I think he could pull
Ooh.
off the weirdness, the likability, and you could...
I think he's great, but not for that part.
I think he could pull that off.
Mr. Cellophane, I think he absolutely could, but I think he needs to be the guy in the car driving the car.
You like him for Parnell?
Yeah,
I think he could
he
do
needs to
both,
be J.
which is a
Frank
tribute
Parnell.
to John C. Reilly.
For Parnell, I was
Absolutely.
thinking John Turturro.
Okay, you want to hear my Miller?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the 1st
Let's
thing
hear
I
your
thought of
Miller.
where Mike is going to kick me out of his house. Here you go, baby. Sean Hayes.
From Will and Grace?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Really? Okay, walk us through it.
I've never watched Will and Grace, so I know nothing about Sean Hayes other than
I have. Go
seeing
ahead.
commercials for Will and Grace.
Because the original had this offbeat, unexpected wackiness to it that kind of like you didn't. You touched on this. You didn't know where it was going, what it was about. It kind of, I know you didn't really enjoy it, but it does take you on kind of a ride. I think Sean Hayes, because you can't, it's like covering a band song. You either do it note for note the way the original band did it, or you have to take it somewhere, put your own spin on it. And there's a lot of character actors who could do an homage to the original Miller, but Sean Hayes would be a new, different Miller.
For my limited knowledge of Sean Hayes, this is what I'll say in his favor, that I understand that his character and Megan Mullally's character ended up being scene stealers for Will and Grace. So I think you're right. By reputation for me, that Sean Hayes is the kind of person, because that's essentially what Tracy Walter does here, is he ends up being the scene stealer.
Yeah.
He steals Repo Man. I'll second that, Sean Hayes.
Wow. I got 2. Yay.
And then let's go with Sam's idea of putting John C. Reilly as Parnell.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
I was actually leaning towards John Turturro for Miller because I think like his character in Barton Fink is kind of a good flip for it. Because I've seen Sean Miller in a couple different things. Like, because I have seen Will and Grace, and I watched a couple episodes of the show he did after it, which wasn't very good. But I think it's Sean Saves the World. And I think he has a very upbeat energy, but I don't think he kind of has the weight of the world on his shoulders.
But neither does Miller. I think he watches the world with detachment.
Yeah, definitely. I
didn't feel any weight on Miller's shoulders either.
Okay. All right. Then you're right. Sean Hayes. Thank you. I was saying Sean Miller, which is wrong. I think Sean Hayes, then like someone who watches the world go by and doesn't let it affect them. Okay. That actually is Sean Hayes.
I love this game.
3 for 3. Sean Hayes for Miller.
Kevin. Xander Schloss. Who should play the nerdy?
I'll throw mine out there real quick. He said Hit, and Xander Schloss ended up being like known as a musician. There's definitely a musician angle there. So for Hit, I said Ed Sheeran.
How about instead the guy from
the guy who's dating Lena Dunham?
Safe Pedro.
Oh God.
I don't know who that is.
He was in that band. Fuck.
That's a great name for a band.
He's in the band Fun. And Fun with the Period. I actually really like him as a musician.
I mean, look,
edit this.
the
and he looks
choice to play
nerdy.
this character.
Jack Antonoff.
Yeah, Jack Antonoff.
Bleachers and Fun. The lead guitarist of Fun.
But look at the way he looks.
I mean, guys, look, if you want to do something where it's like a very similar character, you get John Heder to
I think he'd be too old now.
Yeah, I think he is too old. And I think Kevin's almost a prototype for his character. Like, yeah.
It is, but that's why I think it'd be funny because we know who that guy is. So he comes in looking like that, but then behaving entirely different. Like, we set it up as all the expectations for that character. Like, this character is just like the dweeby guy. But that's the way that character was then. That's the perception of that character for that kind of movie. Now people who look like that aren't automatically, they're the nerd. Now they're kind of like the hipstery person, like, who, like, knows the indie rock bands. I think if you're going to get this guy, the guy with, like, the curly hair and the glasses, you either take the idea of that character and flip it, or you get someone completely indie rock.
That's what I'm saying. Look up Jack Antonoff, and I think when you see who we're talking about, you'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, I get that. Because he has that indie rock.
You mean the guy who did a soundtrack for 50 Shades Darker?
He probably did. He's a great songwriter.
I see what you mean.
Those two connected, being a great songwriter and doing a sequel to
He writes songs for other people, so I could see him writing a film score.
He wrote for Charlie XCX. He's written for Taylor Swift, for Pink. I'm not necessarily opposed to this actor. I just think that we can do better with the characterization, and that I think he can look exactly like he does, but actually be like the cool hip guy
John
that he
Heder
is.
Because I think that was. I think you could pull it. It would be funny. I mean, it might be an original, like an initial. Sight gag.
I just feel like John
then let's
Hader's
do it this
too
way.
On the nose.
Let's make John Heder the guy who runs the grocery store, the manager of the grocery store, like literally the boss of Jack Antonoff.
Okay, sure.
Would that work?
I didn't even have grocery store manager written down as a part we were going to cast, but that works. Let's.
I didn't think we did. That's why I'm throwing it in there so I can get one.
Let's throw out the trio of Debbie, Duke, and Archie.
That's tough.
Okay, Duke in that era, him having a completely shaved head as a young man, that was like really edgy, and now that wouldn't be the slightest bit edgy. And since I figured we might be updating it, the white rapper Machine Gun Kelly would be a guy that. He's not a particularly spectacular actor, but if you look at the scenes...
Yeah, it doesn't really require a whole lot.
Yeah.
He has a dangerous look about him.
Yeah,
I mean, he does look like someone that I think will probably will be and probably has been punched in the face.
Yeah.
What about him for Duke? And then, as an inside gag, cast Flea and Amy Mann as Debbie and Archie as their characters from Big Lebowski. Was that Big Lebowski where they played the nihilists?
Yes, it is.
It's sort of one of those things where Jordan Peele was talking about how he supports the theory that Get Out is a sequel to Being John Malkovich. So what if the remake of Repo Man is sort of a sequel to The Big Lebowski because Amy Mann and Flea are playing the same characters?
I'm down with that.
I'm into it. That sounds funny.
Okay. And
Unfortunately, the one thing that means is that we've lost a little bit of our diversity in this movie, so I think we need to get a little bit of it back.
What if we scrap the John?
Oh, you mean ethnicity wise?
Yeah.
I already for Marlene, and I kind of think it's sort of crappy to stay the same ethnicity to cast something, except when he said Aubrey Plaza, who's one of my favorites, I had already, for one of my favorites, Natalie Emanuel as Marlene. She's Missandei from Game of Thrones. She's stunning.
Oh,
stunning.
She's so good.
Yeah, and she's a great actress, yes.
She's perfect.
Yes. That should bring her up.
I'm immediately on board for that.
Oh, I know who you're talking about when I just saw her age. Yeah. Yeah, and if we're keeping this a period piece, then we can have these broad ethnic stereotypes. And let's have Danny Trejo in there as one of the Rodriguez brothers. I know he's older, but maybe...
I don't think...
Well, why don't we have Danny... Who did we cast as the guy who runs the repo shop? Whose shop is it? What's that guy's name?
Ollie?
He's the guy that makes Otto pour out the beer.
Well, he gives Otto the beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we make Danny Trejo him?
But then when Otto says, you're Repo Man, he responds, that's right, kid, and then Otto pours out the beer.
Right. Yeah. Why don't we make them all work for Danny Trejo?
I like that idea. And then I was thinking for Light, the character who's sort of like the opposite of Bud, Cy Richardson in the original, Ice Cube.
Yeah, sold.
If we have the Reverend Larry, I don't know. I was thinking Mike Muir from Suicidal
Tendencies for the Reverend?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the character at all.
Yeah, you thought it was a real...
You thought it was Pat Robertson.
Oh.
Who are we casting as the Rodriguez brothers?
Ooh. Why don't you guys look up the actor named Ludi Lin, Ludi space Lin.
Okay.
He in the new Power Rangers movie, he played the Black Ranger, and he hasn't done a whole lot, but my impression of him is that he's kind of like an up and coming like young action star.
He's Asian though. He's not Latino.
I'm aware of that. They wouldn't be the Rodriguez brothers anymore.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Los Angeles has a large Asian population too.
I think it'd be more interesting if we had two Asian brothers as opposed to Latino brothers necessarily.
Okay, I'm for that.
And that way, I think that you could. I have someone in my mind to play the other brother, and I can't think of it right now. I don't know why I'm blanking.
God. What was that movie that we watched with Diane? I'm blanking on.
I think the Rodriguez brothers should be all four brothers from Four Brothers.
Four brothers from Four Brothers.
Wahlberg.
Mike, are you thinking of the movie A Separation?
No, not A Separation. The action one with where they're getting out of the building. Oh, The Raid.
The Raid.
Yeah. What about for the older Rodriguez brother? You know what? Even better. How about the...
Yeah, Iko Uwais.
Instead of him, how about the tough guy from The Raid, Yayan Ruian, who...
He's perfect because he's also the choreographer from The Raid.
So we can have great fight scenes with the rival Asian Repo guys.
Because I think it'd be more interesting if they came in and beat the Repo Men up, because no one really has a car race through a wash.
Well, we're
I
still
think
going to
that
have
would
a
be more
great car
interesting.
sequence because of our cinematographer and our editor, so...
Absolutely. Yeah. The other thing I would say is that because this movie's a little bit about subverting expectations, I think it'd be fun to cast this Yayan Ruhian, the choreographer of The Raid. But one of the things that a lot of Hollywood movies do is they cast a couple of Asian guys and they expect them to do like an amazing fight scene. And I think they certainly could. And I think it'd be really funny if we set up an amazing fight scene and then they just shot a guy in the knees.
Oh, go Raiders of the Lost Ark on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit, just because, I mean, that's the Hollywood expectation. Oh, they're Asian guys. They must be good at some form of martial arts. And we can even cast someone who is known for that and then kind of subvert that expectation of, no, I'm just going to do this instead. What? No.
And I bet he would love to have a role where he wouldn't have to flip off of walls.
Well, I mean, I bet that he's a choreographer and he does that for a living because he loves doing that, but I don't
Sam.
necessarily
I don't
disagree.
enjoy telling jokes.
Fair.
I'm kidding. It's my life. All right, let's recap this thing.
Well,
so we have...
Well, hold on. One second. One last thing that I want to do before... Well, in the original movie, it's aliens, but we're now... Even if we're going back and we're doing this in the 80s, do we still want it to be aliens that's in the trunk of the car?
Yes. I mean,
right.
I'm sorry. I think we jumped you. Do you have a cool alternative?
I don't. I just want to talk about kind of I always like to, after we do the cast, I like to talk about kind of some of the underlying themes that the movie represents. Because we've kind of talked about what punk is and what it is and it isn't and how that's represented today.
I would say if you're using an alien alternative and keeping the same ray of light with people getting vaporized, it would have to be some sort of foreign or terrorist power. And then I think you take it into a bad political place. It becomes more of a political film than a fringe of society film, I think.
Well, I also like the idea of kind of going the Pulp Fiction route of never... I think one of the flaws of Repo Man is, at least for me, it's very clear that it's the bodies of the aliens. I think what would make it even better would be if it was completely ambiguous about what it is. I
think that's better. That's kind of more what I'm leaning towards.
Like maybe it's aliens, maybe it's...
Because I think it's more interesting if after the movie people talk what did you think it was?
What do you give the audience as the climax? If Otto and Miller don't take off with the aliens, what's their bang? How does it reconcile itself?
I don't think they necessarily, because one of the things that the Miller character talked about was that they're not space machines, they're time machines. And yet they still fly up into space. I think it'd be more interesting if it's like a huge build up, this huge flash of light, and then it's just gone.
That's just gone?
Instead of CGI flying around the skies of Los Angeles, you do more of a safety not guaranteed. Yeah,
I like that idea. Let it be more ambiguous, as opposed, did they go, did they vaporize? Did they go somewhere else in time? Did they go to a different planet? Yeah, I like the idea of keeping it a lot of ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
Yeah.
Ambiguity is right. Those are kind of the two things that I thought, like the alien and kind of the finales. So that's more interesting for me.
I think being ambiguous, see what I did there, is a lot better. Okay, so let's recap what we got here. So we're taking the Alejandro Iñárritu's staff of Emmanuel Lubezki and Stephen Marone to be the DP and editor of this. We're letting P.T. Anderson, LA's favorite child, son of, I think, the Ghoul.
Really?
He's going to write and direct it. Playing Otto, flipping genders, as Aubrey Plaza. Bud is Bryan Cranston. Miller is Sean Hayes. Leela is Greta Gerwig. Parnell, the driver, is John C. Reilly. Kevin the nerd is Jack Antonoff. The manager of the grocery store is John Heater. Light is Ice Cube. The not Rodriguez brothers, the Asian rival Repo Men, are Ludi Lin and Yayan Ruian. Reverend Larry in a cameo is Mike Muir from the band Suicidal Tendencies. Duke, Debbie, and Archie are rapper Machine Gun Kelly, Amy Mann, and Flea. Marlene is Natalie Emanuel, and Ollie, the owner of the Repo Shop, the Helping Hands Auto Shop, Helping Hands Acceptance Corporation, is LA's Danny Trejo. And I like it. Yeah.
Amazing.
And what do you have coming up?
I have a couple things. It's Christmas time, so a biblical film that I did last year, Chasing the Star, about the search for the baby Jesus in Bethlehem. That is out. That's available for rental and purchase on Amazon. Good old Amazon. And then some upcoming things. I have 490, in which I play an inmate in Jackson Prison, a kind of a very famous prison in the state of Michigan, whose sentence is commuted, who comes back to visit a black inmate, mostly because he's forced to. That's 490. And also Wacko Rory Lion Man, in which I have a small role as an abusive boyfriend. And it's a revenge story. Coincidentally, the girl who plays my girlfriend, who I abuse in Whack-A-Rory Lion Man, Diana Salinas, turns around and she's one of the prison guards in 490.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fun.
A little weird thing that happened. Yeah.
And I cannot recommend highly enough Kill the Irishman. It's so much fun to get to see Jimmy alongside of, like, you know, Vincent D'Onofrio and all these Hollywood heavyweights in a fight scene.
Steve Sciarippa from The Sopranos is great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Lots of good performances.
Like
Linda Cardellini, one of my favorites.
From Freaks and Geeks.
I had no clue who she was when we worked together. I absolutely did not. I did not watch Freaks and Geeks, and I wasn't into the Scooby-Doo franchise. I had no idea who she was.
And I think someone put Almighty Lumberjacks of Death on iTunes, which I'm going to guess you probably don't get any money from.
No, yeah, someone did. Probably my guitar player.
Yeah, but a Detroit band that I think is absolutely phenomenal. The peak of them was definitely around Desert Storm time. They wrote some really great patriotic songs, and I think we're in an age where people confuse patriotism with nationalism, and I think one of the great things about ALD was they were patriots. They were a fun band. They did songs about drinking beer. Jimmy, like I said earlier, is a poet, is a great lyricist, and I urge people to check out Almighty Lumberjacks of Death.
Jimmy, do you have like social media things you want people to go to?
Oh, you can check out Jimmy Doom on IMDb and see all the film work. I have a page on Facebook, a Jimmy Doom page that I try to update regularly. Yeah, that's about it. I have an Instagram, Doomatron. That's mostly my cats. So if you're a cat lover, the Doomatron page is a lot of cats. I don't do the selfie thing. I prefer to let somebody else put a camera in my face.
Sam, what do you have coming up?
All the sketch shows and improv shows will be happening before this episode drops. So I will just say you should follow me on Twitter at Sam Gasch, SamGasch. You can see the stuff that I post about writing and what might be happening for stuff that I've written there, because I will probably be announcing it in an excited type way.
Right
and I am online everywhere at offthemic.com on our next episode. So our Christmas episode, we're going to have a bonus Christmas episode. It's going to be The Long Kiss Goodnight, where Sam and I are going to be flying solo talking about Gina Davis.
That's right. In the movie with the coolest someone taking a shot that has ever been seen in a movie.
Leave a review and, hey, actually even better than leaving a review, just tell one person about Ideal Remake and let's expand our audience even more so. And thanks for listening.
For anybody you tell, I personally will owe you 1 thumbs up because you're a swell person and I respect you.
Sam has nice thumbnails.
I do my best thinking on the bus. That's how come I don't drive, see?
You don't even know how to drive.
I don't want to know how. I don't want to learn, see? The more you drive, the less intelligent you are.